Hi, I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of Our Take on Cruise with Roger and Shannon, or, okay, you guys know what comes next. My name's Roger Blum with Cruise and Port Advisors, and as you can tell, I'm not with Shannon today. Hopefully you were watching just a couple days ago. Shannon posted a really interesting interview with a good friend of all of ours, Captain Nick and Talis from Royal Caribbean. But while Shannon is in Miami, I am actually in the beautiful port of Portsmouth, England, on board, you'll never guess the cruise line. Okay, you guessed it. I'm on board the Resilient Lady. We have just returned from a 4-day cruise to Amsterdam. I'll fill you in on that in a second, but we're back in Portsmouth. Yesterday we were in the English Channel. We were in fog. We had the foghorn blowing. We had clouds. We had sun. We had a little bit of rain. It was like being in England. We had all climates in a matter of a few hours. But on board the Resilient Lady, we've had a great trip. As many of you know, we sailed just a couple years ago on Scarlet Lady. The ship is virtually identical. But what's interesting is, I don't want to say Virgin's grown up, because I think that would be an insult. Virgin doesn't want to grow up. They always want to do things new, but they really have developed their product since we sailed a couple years ago. First of all, there's more entertainment and activities on the ship than there were before. It's a lot to do. It doesn't mean that there's announcements and let's go here, let's go there. There are zero announcements, which I still love. But there was just a lot to do. And also, as far as the entertainment, there were more shows than before, more live music than before. Loved a band, Slam Allen's Blues Band, one of the best I've ever seen. It was really great. As far as the shows, the entertainment, it's like nothing you've ever seen on a cruise ship before. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be everybody's cup of tea. Everyone says cup of tea here in England. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but it's creative, it's fun, and if you're open-minded, you will love it. It's so different. The performers are extremely talented, a lot of acrobats, vocalists, you name it. Funny, everything is tongue-in-cheek. They don't take themselves too seriously here. It's still very cheeky. Like even this ice cream cone I'm having, if you take a look, you can see it's cheeky. Dining, the food's excellent. As most of you probably know, all alternative dining is included. There's no such thing as a main dining room on the ship. Food in each of them was great. Gumby, the Korean barbecue, was just a fun experience with great food. We ate in the wake, great steakhouse. The Italian is great. We didn't make it to the Mexican this time. Everyone talks about that. But we also had a chance to experience a behind-the-scenes tour. And when I was first invited to go on this behind-the-scenes tour, I figured, hey, I spent my whole life behind the scenes. What's the big deal? But they did a great job. Each of the different areas, the department heads and the leaders spent as much time as possible explaining, answering questions. And I'll say I learned a lot, and it's a great experience. Many cruise lines offer these. They're expensive, but they're really worthwhile. You really get to understand the inner workings of the ship. Some other changes that Virgin has always bragged about is that they have a policy of no buffets. That has not changed, but the traditional ships all have different names for it, a Lido self-service buffet. They have an area that looks like that on here with different types of food areas. On Scarlet Lady a couple of years ago, you could go, you could see the food, but you couldn't actually pick it up and take it. You'd sit down at a table, scan a QR code, and a waiter would bring it to you, sometimes quickly, sometimes quite honestly at busy periods like breakfast, times like that, you'd have to wait. Now they still have these different food areas. You cannot touch the food. They have plenty of staff back there, so the lines move quickly. Point out what you want, as much as you want, don't worry about that, and they hand it to you, so you get your food, sit down, and that's great. Just another example of how they have really progressed and really learned. The other thing that was really interesting, we're sailing out of the UK, 90% of the guests on board are British. I would say 95% of those have sailed Virgin, and I'm not just saying one or two cruises, I mean multiple times. There's one guy we met who's been on board Virgin ships 211 days. And this is a company that really didn't have its first revenue cruise until after the pandemic. That's unbelievable. So the loyalty to this brand is incredible. So I said I was going to come back to Amsterdam. We were supposed to be docking right at the passenger terminal, right downtown Amsterdam, pretty much behind the central train station. Incredible place. But of course, all of you viewers, you're in the cruise business, you're in the travel business, and you know that there has been some negative feelings towards the cruise industry. And Amsterdam is no exception to that. And there have been a lot of demonstrations in Amsterdam, and as most of you probably know, a lot of ships have canceled their calls this season to Amsterdam to avoid these demonstrations and blocking roads and blocking exits. And I think there was an episode of some people chaining themselves to a fence so people couldn't get out. So at the last minute, Virgin did decide, instead of going to downtown Amsterdam, they stopped at the port of, as you can see in the picture, Velsen Cruise Terminal, which is, and my apologies to my Dutch friends, Emudian, I think that's how you pronounce it, which is about a 45-minute drive from downtown Amsterdam. There's no question I'd rather be in downtown Amsterdam, but Virgin did the best they could in the situation, put on shuttle buses for free, bringing people back and forth, and we all made the best of it and had a great time in Amsterdam. Matter of fact, my wife and I did something really unusual. We did a bike tour, but we did the bike tour that took us on a ferry on the other side of the river, so that we actually got to see a lot of countryside and got out of the city of Amsterdam. So I think that's also a great solution for many of these cities that are complaining about too many tourists. You all have great surrounding areas. Promote those surrounding areas. Get people out to the countryside, the small towns, the villages. We experienced it. By the way, quick shout out that I really want to add to this. The Apollo Group is doing the hotel on board the ship, meaning that they're doing the food, the beverage, the housekeeping, the sailor services, which many of you would call the front desk, the front office. All of these are run by the Apollo Group. Apollo Group has a special place in my heart because my first job in the cruise industry and at sea, I was hired personally by the founder of the Apollo Group, Rafael Ordonez, and that was my first job at sea. I stayed friends with Rafael. Unfortunately, may he rest in peace, he's passed on, but the Apollo Group is doing incredible. On board this ship, and throughout Virgin, they got together with their chefs and their creative people and the Virgin people to come up with concepts for dining and recipes and menus that are amazing. So my heart goes out to Apollo, because if it wasn't for Apollo, I wouldn't be here today. And just wanted to give all my friends at Apollo a shout out. Can't wait to see all of you next week in Malaga. Sorry about that. Late night on board the ship, and we are on our way through Portugal and then on to Malaga. So we'll see you at Sea Trade Med. Bye everyone.